How's everybody doing? Good. All right. There we go. So you probably are thinking Startup Mixology. You're getting these vivid kind of ideas of what that might be about. And I just want to tell you right now, it's not about that at all. So I'm sorry. This is actually about a journey. And it's actually about a roller coaster ride that I've been on since I actually left Purdue in 2000. I was a computer technology major here at Purdue, and I took that on to basically start programming and learned a lot in product development, and then eventually, for about a decade and a half, used all these different life lessons to start my own company. But it wasn't just a straight path. It was kind of a meandering roller coaster up and down path with a lot of highs and lows. And I want to share some of those stories with you today and some of the people that I interacted with along the way. So we all kind of start with ideas, right? Like you probably all have ideas, right? In the audience, show of hands, how many people have ideas? Right, yeah, got some ideas. I've met lots of people with ideas, probably hundreds of thousands of people with ideas, in doing what I'm doing. And it really, you find that some have ideas and they're able to take them to action and they're able to get them funded and they're able to then market them and some even exit. They have they either IPO or get sold, and you hear a lot of these different stories. But what you come to realize at first is you're very protective of your cute little precious idea, right? And but then what you realize is you can start to maybe handle one idea, and then all of a sudden you've got two ideas, and all of a sudden now you have a dozen ideas. And I think there's a quote, John Steinbeck, I think, made something similar to that. But more or less, you've got to now figure out, what do I do? Because ideas are kind of a commodity, right? You all have ideas, right? So now we've got to figure out, which path do I go on? And you kind of come to this crossroads, and you realize, okay, I got to make a decision, and I don't know which one to go after. And you really need to figure out internally what your purpose is. And so, you can do that in a couple different ways. And one of the really simple ways is realizing, every single day, what is the thing you keep coming back to? Like if you have a bunch of ideas, you might want to start jotting them down in your phone, or you could get a nice Moleskine or something like that, and then go back to the ones that really resonate, and you're like, if I didn't do this, I just wouldn't be able to live, that kind of thing. And when you find those ideas, those are the ones you really need to go after. So I'm going to tell you my story about how I got into what I'm doing. And it really started around 2005. Now picture this. You're in New Orleans. You're at a conference, tech kind of conference. At the time I was in product development for the Tribune company, a big organization with lots of different newspaper websites and radio stations and TV stations. Pretty much a media juggernaut of its time. It's since had a few rough starts here and there. But at the time, it was the way you got news, right? So I was at this conference in a very humid, pre-Hurricane Katrina New Orleans. And I was in a session and sitting and trying to figure out what my next session was going to be. And I realized there was a bit of a break. There was nothing that really stuck out. And there was a session about blogging. And at the time, I was like, oh, I heard through the, some of the things around blogging, and I was like, oh, that's really super geeky. I don't really actually know what it really all means. It's unapproachable. It's kind of a weird word. Blog, that's a weird word, say that. Blog, it's really weird. And so I just kept doing that in the session and got a lot of looks. But more or less, it seemed really geeky. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. That's too geeky for me, right? Like, I'm not going to go to this session. But there was nothing else, right? So I just reluctantly sat in on the session, and I'm listening. I'm like, I will not learn anything in the session. I'm closed off to anything. But then I started to listen, and that was really what got me hooked, is the curiosity of what they were saying, and the platforms that they had kind of started talking about got my technology kind of mind going. And I'm like, wow, these platforms are pretty powerful and could probably really help people, and so help companies really grow faster. So what I realized is, in doing so, I started blogging every single day. It got hooked. It got addictive. I did 5 years of blogging every single day as like a passion project, and that led me to what I'm doing today. In my early time in blogging, this is around the time there were 1 million blogs, right? That seems like like a high number, but it actually isn't, because I feel like now there's 1 billion people online, right? So it's and communicating via social media and whatnot. So think back when there's 1 million, you're able to connect with a lot of different people doing different things at the same time. So the founders of TechCrunch, the founder of Mashable, and all these different sites, I met through comments on my blog. That's pretty crazy, right? And so that kind of catapulted me into a year later where I decided, you know what, I'm gonna try to do this thing called, at the time, Tech Cocktail. And that's where the cocktail kind of metaphor comes in. I started this company called Tech Cocktail, and we just recently rebranded as Tech.co. But more or less, the idea was to help better tell the stories of different places locally. So like we started in Chicago and then DC and went to Boulder, Colorado and Boston and tried to better tell and amplify the story with the mission of helping entrepreneurs enjoy the startup journey and really providing resources and community and connections. So in telling the story online at tech.co, but then also doing events that brought the community together and showcased what was happening as a little bit of a celebration to the fact that there was stuff happening, not just in Silicon Valley, not just in New York, and really giving an opportunity for these companies to get together and connect with their community. And in doing so, I've met lots and lots of different founders, right? And met these founders very early. You know, the founders of Uber before they were creating Uber, and the founders of Grubhub before they were Grubhub, and the founder of Groupon before it was Groupon, and the founders of Living Social before it was Living Social. And in doing so, I met some really smart people. I've had the fortune of learning lessons from these people, and what I'm calling the ingredients. And so that's where the Startup Mixology comes in, right? You've got all these different ingredients that go into starting and running a business. And I've tried to boil them down in a way that makes it super digestible to create a reference for people for when they're actually trying to start up and take that idea, which you all admitted you have, and get it out into the world. And so in doing so, though, there were some things that I crossed. Yes, you're thinking about, you know, oh, you can get funding and marketing and, you know, and launch and all that kind of stuff, but there's also a dark side. Yes, there's a dark side. Just like anything, right? It's going to be highs and lows. And sometimes you're going to be sitting on that bench by yourself. And very early on, this is much the case, because you've got yourself, maybe you're a co-founder, or maybe you're doing it on your own, and you've got to figure out how are you going to change the world with just what you've got. And you've got to try, basically figure out what is the seam, what is the opportunity here to start very small and create something that can change the world. And that's really hard, and that's super stressful. It can feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, right? And so I realized this in finding all these different ingredients and talking to all these entrepreneurs over the years, that this is something that's kind of a dirty little secret, right? You hear a little bit about it here and there, but for the most part, you're hearing about Silicon Valley, and you're hearing about, the Zuckerberg Facebook movie and all these different things, like, oh, I did this thing, and all of a sudden I'm a billionaire, it's an instant success. No, it doesn't happen that way. There's the dark side, and you don't hear those early stories. So I wanted to make sure that people realize that that can happen, and in doing so, you can actually, early on, even in the long run, lose yourself a little bit. So you pour all of your passion into this thing, and now you've got a problem because you might not be able to disconnect yourself from what the company you're building or that idea that you brought in the world. And that can be troublesome and sometimes dangerous. So what I wanted to share today is to help you figure out, how do you stay grounded? How do you stay motivated so you don't lose yourself in your company or your idea or your product? And I've got a little secret that I wanted to share, because this is really the ingredient that really is not talked about at all. It's kind of a thing that's there, and oftentimes downplayed as, oh, that's just a fluff thing you don't need to do, right? So, do you want to hear the secret? Okay. How many really want to hear the secret? Yeah, okay. Same ones with ideas. Okay, so these are my friends here. They know the secret too. So that secret is celebration. Yes, celebration. Basically, celebration can act as a tool. It can act as a tool to keep you connected and communicating. It can act as something to keep you motivated and propel you to that next level. It can keep you positive, too. And you're probably thinking, why celebration? That's weird, right? But no, it's actually a pivotal stage in the productivity process. And because it allows you to commemorate what you've done and the activity you've kind of been focused on, and then allows you to propel past it to the next thing, where you could have another celebration. So it's almost like jet fuel, right? And if you put the jet fuel in the right spots, you can keep that momentum going. Not just for yourself, but when you have employees and you have a team, part of your job is literally figuring out, how do I keep those folks marching ahead in the right direction in a positive way? So let's go look at this. How many people have seen Maslow's hierarchy of needs for motivation, right? Right, so where does this celebration really fit into this hierarchy? It actually, it fits into esteem, right? Because part of this is you need to have esteem. And if you can create self-esteem and you can create confidence and build confidence, which you can do through celebration, this is where that can really be helpful to you. So the idea here is you want to try to use these events in line with your purpose to keep you going and keep your team going so that you can get respected by others, you can keep the team morale going, and create that self-esteem. All right, so how many folks take pictures of their food? Be honest. Yeah, we all like to do that, right? Latte art, right? Isn't that the best thing to take a picture of? Right? So we all do this, right? It's now become like customary for everyone to sit down at a dinner and all of a sudden food comes and everyone's got their phone out and they're taking photos. Do you know what you're doing there? Does anybody, yes, you're taking a photo and yes, you're probably keeping it for yourself and sharing it with the world, but you're also taking a moment to show gratitude in a way, right? Like you're taking a moment saying, wow, I've got this amazing art. Everyone should see this because if I don't, I'm going to drink it in a second. So this is a moment of gratitude, and it's an opportunity for you to be thankful for what you have, right? Not everybody has that art. Not everybody has food. And so you can do the same thing within your business. This is Jessica Kim. She's got a company called Babaco out in Boston. And basically what she did with her team is every Wednesday would come together with her team and create these what she calls Wednesday, where they'd sit in a circle and they would go around the room and everyone would share their wins. Well, I'll be darned, no one wants to go to the Wednesday without some kind of win, because that's social pressure, right? Like you want to share the momentum and keep things going. And not to mention you're communicating back and forth. We're doing this stuff and everyone can see it, and it's super powerful. So you create an idea, you ideate, you create and you celebrate, right? And it's a cycle, and you continue to do that. With Wednesday, you do it every Wednesday. So these guys are the founders of Grubhub. They came to an event that we hosted to help celebrate the community in Chicago years ago, 2006, October, with their sign, their flag, and an idea, and they weren't getting traction. But they decided to, come out anyway, not work through the night on this thing, come out and share with the community what they've got, and people acknowledged it. Well, fast forward to April last year, they'd just bought their biggest competitor and IPO'd. They didn't give up. They pursued their passion. It wasn't easy. They had a lot of pushback. They couldn't get funded for years. But they continued to, while they were coding hard, come out and do their thing and share with it and acknowledge what was going on. Okay, I love cake. This is a cake that was from a kind of a celebratory thing that they do at a company called BrightTag, now called Signal. The CTO is Eric Lund, and he's a CTO, so their dev team has releases, and they name them after different things. This one might be called the Enterprise, right? And then they create a cake around it. And they decide, you know what? As a team, we're going to come together, not just the dev team, but the entire company. And we're going to show that we just had this milestone. And we're going to all devour this cake together. And that's what they do every time they release new software. This is a tool we use. It's called Slack. Our team has a team celebration channel. And in it, you can kind of read it for yourself. But we decide when we're going to have sales bell ringings and llama hugging and all that kind of stuff. And it's open for anybody on the team to share their wins and also share an opportunity to, I see somebody hugging, that's amazing. And it offers an opportunity to kind of share these things together and allows you to come up with new ideas. And out of this came this idea that every Friday we should celebrate the fact that we have flexibility to work from anywhere. Our team, our editorial team, our operations team, they're spread around the country. And so we use a lot of technology to stay in touch, but it's also nice to realize, wow, we have the technology that allows us to work from anywhere. So sometimes we work from a co-working space, and so sometimes you can work from, your home office or whatever, but every Friday now, we call it Friday Fun Day. Afternoon, everyone can go and do whatever they want, work from wherever they want, right? So we decided to do this and started, you can work by a pool if you want, Friday afternoon. The idea is we're still connected and we're still productive, but we're actually celebrating the fact we have the flexibility to be able to work from anywhere. You can't do that all the time. It allows you to say, wow, I don't have to sit in my cubicle all the time, and we've got this flexibility. We don't have cubicles, but if you did, that you could imagine. All right, so this is a company called Sweetgreen. They created a little shop that allowed you to have really nice salads and wraps and things in Georgetown. A bunch of Georgetown grads created it, Georgetown University in DC. This was their first restaurant. They quickly tried to grow and create another restaurant, DuPont Circle, and hit a bit of a bind in that they realized that they maybe scaled too fast, didn't know what they were doing, and realized that they maybe rented on the wrong side of DuPont Circle, rented the space, and they couldn't get anybody in there. They couldn't get foot traffic. So while one of the founders kept the restaurant going, the other two went outside and said, I'm really passionate about music and really passionate about this what they call the sweet life, this kind of with a purpose kind of feel that they want everyone to feel when they go into the restaurants. And they wanted to somehow capture the people who were walking by. So they did. They brought music and samples and said, hey, and tried to literally do some guerrilla marketing. But that quickly, with the help of the authorities actually, turned into a street festival, which then turned into a park festival, and then ultimately it turned into something at Merriweather Pavilion in DC called the Sweet Life Festival. This is a celebration of what they do and their culture, and they're allowing you, basically an experience that you can't get in other places. They invite bands, and it's all about passion and purpose. You can have a nice salad or a wrap or a yogurt. All their food and everything is kind of what the founders initially wanted, was creating this vibe. And they pour that into this restaurant, and now you can see it in the Sweet Life Festival. So this is Zappos.com. If you like to order shoes and other apparel, you've probably seen it. They're based in Las Vegas. Their CEO also wrote a book called Delivering Happiness, and if you know about them at all, they're all about culture, and they're about customer service. And so that passion for that has actually spewed out into the downtown of Las Vegas. And the CEO has decided to take his $350 million and instill it, or pour it into the downtown to create a walkable community. And so now it's a reflection of his purpose, which is creating a place that's really, I would say, whimsical. A place that wasn't like that a couple years ago. And so there's a container park with a mantis that shoots fire, and there's lots of other things that are down there. But the idea here is he figured out what he was really passionate about, and they're celebrating that throughout the community. And there's literally like fun runs every week, and there's festivals, and there's all these different things. And that's part of Tony Hsieh, the CEO, but it's also part of Zappos and the culture that they've created there. So as a startup mixologist, I've seen lots of different things. I've seen lots of different ingredients. And I've been able to really observe them and observe the people that have started these different companies, not to mention have my own path as well. And I think that the biggest thing to take away is figure out what idea really lights you up. What's the idea that you want to work on for the next 7 to 10 years or forever? And that's the one you really need to pursue. And if you do that, and you instill celebrations into everything you do, you will be able to propel yourself in a positive way, communicating and keeping it moving forward. Thank you very much.